What is going on, trainers? DrumVillain here, bringing you some more Pokemon Go Battle League PvP content, and today we're talking about the Single Type Cup. And this is a bit of a spicy team, just because the whole team is going to have a little bit of an issue with Steel types in particular. And the reason I came up with this team the way I did was I was looking through the meta, looking at what the top things were on PVPoke, etc. And all the top rated things in here are counter users. It's picks like Machamp, it's picks like Primeape, it's picks like Vigoroth. And I figured, well, what if none of the team is weak to that, you know? And also a meta like that is probably going to scare off Steel types. So it's not going to matter that the whole team is going to struggle with Steel types as much. Don't get me wrong, they're still out there, they still cause big problems. But if you're feeling pretty ballsy, if you're feeling like you're not running into Registeel very much in this cup, or even Melmetal, I guess, they are out there, a little bit rarer, then this team might be a good shout for you, because it puts a lot of pressure on pretty much anything that's not Steel. Now, this team isn't perfect by any measure. A Steel or Poison in the back can do a lot of work against you, but I find it fairly easy to play, and it is quite a bit of fun, and a lot of teams just aren't prepared for this kind of team composition. I've been using this team at around the high 2400s in ELO rating, which is only a couple hundred points below leaderboards. I didn't realize leaderboards were starting at like 2700 currently at this point, so it's a pretty strong team and performing pretty highly in terms of the skill level of the players that we're battling against and the levels of the teams that we're working against. So it's definitely not to be slept on. So let's jump straight into the meat of the team. On the lead, we're bringing Hypno, and we're going to be running Fire Punch and Shadow Ball. And that's because, let's say we catch a Cofagrigus on the lead and we swap out into our fairies and mess about and whatnot, and maybe we get shield advantage, maybe we don't. Maybe we get excess energy on our Hypno, farming down whatever comes in to meet our fairies, and then maybe we get a Shadow Ball off on Cofagrigus and do absolutely massive damage. So personally, I like Shadow Ball on Hypno, and then Fire Punch, just so we've got something to be able to hit Steel types against. Hypno with Fire Punch can go okay against Registeel. You'll lose the matchup, but you'll get it low enough to then where your Charmers can get past it, and perhaps then if you've got a Registeel on the lead against your Hypno, there's a good chance fairies in the back are going to have a lot of play for you as well. You can use Shadow Hypno a bit later on. I've got some battles using Shadow Hypno with a slightly tweaked lineup, and on that I'm running Fire Punch and Thunder Punch, but you'll see that when those battles come up in a couple of sets worth towards the end of this video. In the back on this team, we're bringing double Fairy, and I know, boo, double Charmers, but we're not bringing two Charmers, we're bringing one Charmer and then one Fairy Wind user. Later on in the video, like I said, when we bring Shadow Hypno in, we actually pair it up with double Fairy Wind users, so it's all about charge moves coming from those fairy types rather than charm damage, which also works very, very effectively. So either way, but we're bringing Aromatisse as our Charmer, and more often than not, we use this as our safe swap, which may or may not be a clever idea. I think both this and the other fairy on this team both make good safe swaps in general. Aromatisse has the most interesting, I think, charge moves for this cup, because it has access to Psychic, has access to Thunderbolt, and has some other interesting charge moves as well, which can do a lot of work for you in the right situation if you survive long enough to get to them, because they are quite slow charging, and obviously Charm is incredibly slow to build energy. But also it's got decent bulk, this thing, and it can just charm its way through quite a lot of Pokemon. So a lot of the time, if I see a Cofagrigus on lead, I'll say swap Aromatisse. Sometimes a Cofagrigus stays in, and you can charm all the way through if you're willing to commit two shields in that matchup. You'll get one of those shields back if you throw the Psychic at it and whatnot. And often Aromatisse, even if you don't throw a charge move and you just opt to shield up and charm all the way through, those charge moves are going to threaten whatever follows it in. You're going to be threatening anything that comes in to farm you down, because the charge moves from this thing are quite scary in general. The other fairy we're opting to bring in is going to be the new Fairy Wind Clefable, which I think is incredibly strong. This thing's so powerful. It's spammy with super strong charge moves. Meteor Mash is going to annihilate any other fairy or even an ice type that you might run into, and then Moonblast is super powerful fairy damage, and it's got the potential for an attack debuff. Clefable's got moderate bulk and decent attack. It's going to put in a lot of work for you, and this is something that really blew me away, is if you've got shields on Clefable, and even if the opponent's got shields as well and stuff, you can start threatening Registeel. Not many fairies can actually really put in decent work against Registeel. Like you can get them kind of mid-range, but the Registeel has no stress taking you out. But if you start committing shield or two onto Zap Cannons against that thing, it's going to have to start committing shields back, because 3 Moonblasts are going to get very threatening to a Great League Registeel. But you can see what I'm saying about the fact that this team in general doesn't really like steel types because the confusion's resisted, the fairy moves are resisted. Like, the only move on this team that isn't resisted by a steel type is Hypno's charge moves, Fire Punch and Shadow Ball, which is why you definitely want Fire Punch on your Hypno if you're running this line, just to make sure you can put a little bit of work in on a steel type that you might run into. And another one of the main facets that really helps this team shine and perform strongly is the fact that a lot of people just are running Machamp, and they are running Vigoroth, and they are running Primeape. And not only that, people are also running Umbreon because it's very, very strong. It has the Community Day move of Psychic as well, which means it can threaten those fighters. So Umbreon's widely regarded as one of the stronger Pokemon in this meta as well. As much as I usually love Umbreon, I do also appreciate bringing a couple of answers to the thing if you're going to be running into it as well. So if you run into any lineup with a fighter on it, you're going to gain a huge advantage because they have nowhere to go against this team, and that gives you a lot more versatility on handling something else that the team might not deal with as well, like a Registeel, or even possibly having a Coffee just lined up with your Hypno, things like that. They're going to feel a lot less scary because you've got a lot more Pokemon health resources available to you to handle that situation. With all that being said, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and let's talk matchups and actually how this team is going to play out against certain leads and against certain things in the back. So this matchup, on the lead, we've got Machamp, and this is a fantastic lead in general. Gives you all the versatility in the world to do whatever you need to do, because Machamp loses hard to everything on this team. So depending on what they swap in, it depends on what you want to do moving forward. Now, a lot of Machamps might be scared of Hypno or other psychic users, so there's a decent chance there's a dark type, like possibly Umbreon, in the back that they're hoping to line up. And because Dunsparce is incredibly neutral, and we don't care what gets lined up with Machamp in general, we're just going to stay in. We're going to stay with Hypno, do some work on this Dunsparce, and I was surprised about how effective Dunsparce is in these neutral matchups. I knew it was good, and recently got a buff to rollout damage slightly and stuff, but it really is a solid Pokemon and really worth considering for the Great League in general. And there it is. There's the Umbreon that was lurking in the back. So now we swap in our Charmer, and they obviously don't really know what to do about it because they're stuck. They know they've got Machamp, they can't swap out, and they know we've still got Hypno, not with much health albeit, but still they don't really want to bring Machamp into that and take huge confusion damage. So they're going to be thinking that they're putting in solid work here on the Charmer and getting it out of the way, but it's not going to matter because we've still got Clefable in the back as well. So the damage is definitely already done in this game. They really were just depending on Dunsparce and Umbreon to carry them through, and they just didn't commit the shields where they needed to, and they just struggled anyway. So GG's to the opponent. Okay, so normally, say swapping a Charmer is a terrible idea in general unless you've got two Charmers on your team. Umbreon lead, we're going to say swap our Charmer because, like we said, a lot of people just aren't running the steel types because they're afraid of the Machamps, and also an Umbreon lead is very unlikely to have a steel in the back because then they'd be weak on the lead and in the back to Machamp or Vigoroth or Primeape and these other fighters that are so powerful and so common. So we say swap the Charmer, we pull out Coffee, and we can just say, well, la-di-da, we're just going to charm you down, double shield. Yes, we're down 2 shields, but also Shadow Gramble's coming in to charm us down. They better shield this up or they're going to get smashed to a million pieces. They do, so that's 1 shield back already. That immense Shadow Charm damage does take us out, but look at the confusion damage here adding up. This is Crunch. It won't quite take us out, but will get us very, very low, and they're expecting the Umbreon to swap in, which they do. They've still got a shield advantage here, but that's not really going to matter because Moonblast is going to hit like an absolute truck. It's not going to one-shot Umbreon, but it's going to get it very, very low, and that's going to allow us probably to Fairy Wind all the way down and then have energy to Meteor Mash the Gramble. So they shielded up. Now what we're going to do is we're going to try and very carefully manage our energy and time the Moonblast. We can't wait too long because one more last resort will take us out because Umbreon is pretty bulky, pretty strong. We're just able to take them out with the Fairy Wind. Can we make Meteor Mash? We can. We were at very dangerous risk of just being charmed down entirely because Clefable's got almost no health left. Hypno's got barely any health left. We're just able to etch that win out. GG's. You guys absolutely can opt to run Shadow Gramble instead of one of these fairy types as well on the team if you want. The charge moves are very nice, being Crunch and Close Combat, or even I think it can have Play Rough as well, so you've got some nice versatility in there. You can run Snarl as your fast move, or you can run Charm for that immense damage output. Pretty strong Pokemon, and I wouldn't sleep on it. It is pretty tough to deal with. So, next matchup we've got Ninetales on the lead, and we want to stop him with Hypno against that thing, just because the fairies don't want to see a fire type because fire is resisting fairy damage. Then they swap in a Clefable, and we're a little bit scared of what to do, just because Meteor Mash is going to annihilate our fairies as well, and we're already down a shield. So we end up just stopping in with Hypno and getting a Shadow Ball through, farming them down, and now we're down 2 shields. We figure we'll swap into Aromatisse, into the fire type. This is on purpose, because we want them to stay in this matchup. Want them to feel pressure to, and because the charm damage is going to add up. We already had confusion damage, chipping them down, and we just want to deal with this Ninetales and not let it get out of control energy-wise against the Hypno, and then another Shadow bloody Gramble in the back. These things are a pain in the ass to deal with, and I mean, I'm saying that as someone that's also bringing a Charmer into this meta, but look at how fast that damage is adding up. Absolutely insane. We're going to throw Meteor Mash. We're hoping they do have energy for a charge move just about now, and we're hoping that they don't throw. We try to catch on Hypno, which we're able to do, and we're hoping we can survive one more Charm and get to the Meteor Mash on Clefable. We're just able to get there, and we're going to take them out and take the win, but that is going to be by the absolute skin of our teeth. Nope, they had a shield left. Okay, sorry, completely forgot they had a shield. We lose that game. Still, GG's. We gave it our best effort, but not a lot we could do there. They had 2 shields on that Shadow Gramble. I completely forgot that was the position I put myself in. Now, if we had double Charm and we were just fast move pressuring our way through, we might actually have been pretty close to winning that game at the end there. But either way, doesn't matter. Jumping straight on into the next one. Lickitung lead. Lickitung a very strong pick. Again, not used as much as you would expect, just because people are scared of those fighters. Even though Lickitung can put a lot of work in against Shadow Machamp and against Primeape, just because the licks add up, the body slams add up, and also it's got strong play against Cofagrigus. So definitely don't sleep on Lickitung in this cup. Don't be afraid of those fighters. I know I'm saying that while running an entire team that counters the fighters, but they're not as strong as they look. They can't take very many hits. They're not the be-all and end-all. So picks like Lickitung are still very, very viable in this cup. We're going to swap out to spare Hypno the overbearing lick damage and just get Aromatisse in here. We're going to choose to soft lose the matchup and just bring Hypno back in and get ahead on energy, because the fact they didn't swap out of us bringing in a Charmer let on that they might be just really weak to fairies in the back. And when Surfetched comes in to meet our Hypno, I'm like, okay, you know what, there's something suspect going on here, and there it is, Shadow Machamp. So this is a Lickitung double fighter line, which while Lickitung has good play, both Farfetch'd and Shadow Machamp, as you can see, just get absolutely annihilated by the fairies, and we just make up so much ground with that type advantage, which is going to mean that we can still win this game despite being in what looked like a bit of a messy situation, struggling to handle the Lickitung lead in general. Sunny Cast Form lead, same plan as the Ninetales. The rough gist is if you get a lead that the fairies are weak to, you're just staying with Hypno. If that's a poison type, great. If it's a fire type, great. If it's a steel type, less great, but still you got to stick in there and do what you can. We're just going straight for the Shadow Ball and get it through, which is big damage. We're not going to sweat this charge, we're going to let it go. And it turns out we get beamed into next week. Hypno gets wiped out, and that's a shame, because if we'd have shut up that move and farmed them down entirely, we'd have been looking pretty, we had a pretty healthy Hypno to carry on with, but doesn't matter either way, because they had a Cofagrigus in the back. So we're more happy saving the shield, meaning that we can just charm our way through this thing, and then hopefully Clefable has a type advantage on whatever's in the back. Hopefully it's a fighter. You never know, but I've got a feeling that it might be a grass type, just because we had the fire type on the lead, and then maybe Cofagrigus is the safe swap. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see what actually happens here, but we're going to shield up this Psychic. We've gone for the double shield, and there's a bloody Shadow Gramble once again. Okay, you know what? Every time we lose to a Shadow Gramble with this team, or with any team in general, just take it as an endorsement of how powerful fairies are in this meta in general. Just take it as a reinforcement that fairies can definitely be the way to go in this cup in general. Of course, Gramble's incredibly strong. DC just charms us down. It's still pretty low. If I had Shadow Gramble built for the Great League, that's what I'd be running instead of Aromatisse on this team, just so you guys are aware. Grimer lead, fantastic for Hypno. They're weak to the psychic damage, and the fairies really struggle against it, so this works out fairly well. They swap out into Vigoroth. We're going to bring in Aromatisse. There isn't really a right call between which fairy to bring in here. I like Aromatisse just because it can comfortably take 2 body slams and still charm down. They have to throw a 3rd body slam to actually take you out. We're going to shield up just in case it's a Bulldoze, which it is, because the Bulldoze does hit slightly harder then a Body Slam would have made up the difference and knocked us out. So just a gut feeling that it might not have been double Body Slam they were going for, and it happened to pay off. Lucky for us. Grimer comes in, gets wrecked by a Psychic, and now we've got a ton of Pokemon left to deal with whatever's in the back. It's a Mightyena. We've got Clefable. They're just going to surrender right there and then. Might be a little preemptive just because Mightyena with Fire Fang can probably put in a fair amount of work while we're building up to charge moves because they still had 2 shields. But I'm happy to take the win either way. Cofagrigus lead, same plan as before. Say swap Aromatisse and see what they choose to do. And they're going to choose to stay in, at least for a little bit here. We're going to shield up the Shadow Ball, that's completely fine. We're going to start building up an energy. Then in comes Rainy Cast Form, and I'm like, oh, do they know? Do they know it's got Thunder? Maybe they don't. This will be great. If it gets through, no, the shield, of course they do. Definitely worth the shield on their part, regardless of what charge move we were going to throw. Anyway, we're just going to let this go. Let this charge move go through now. We're in a neutral 1 shield situation, and we're just going to build up excess energy. We're going to take whatever this Cast Form wants to throw at Hypno. We're going to have a Shadow Ball loaded to dump into the Cofagrigus, which is now definitely in Shadow Ball range for us as well, which is very nice. Take the second Weather Ball. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how low we get. It's not going to hit us as hard as Shadow Ball from this goddamn ghost coffin face man is. So, throw the Shadow Ball, get the shield probably, swap to Clefable. What can it do with a 1 shield advantage? They're going to beat us to a charge move. Worth the shield. Not much hits as hard as Cofagrigus' Shadow Balls in this meta. See what they choose to do. Build up excess energy, and there's a Slurpuff. Right, we're going to double Meteor Mash this thing, right? But we want a little bit extra energy. We want to push it a little bit closer to the line just to make sure we can probably get to that Meteor Mash against the Cofagrigus as well. We should just get there. Clefable wins CMP tie against Cofagrigus. My Clefable is pretty decent PvP IV, so I'm pretty sure in general Clefable wins CMP tie against Cofagrigus, but I don't know that for sure in and out in all IV situations. Now don't get me wrong, this team goes wrong because you have matchups like this. Umbreon lead, okay, swap in our Charmer, and there's a Grimer, Shadow Grimer, nonetheless, to poison Jabbers down. We're not going to bother shielding up because we can't really flip this matchup no matter what. Just going to let it go. This Grimer's still very, very healthy. We're going to go for a Confusion down, but they are probably going to get a Sludge Bomb off on us here, which is going to hit pretty hard because Shadow, Sludge Bomb's a powerful move, it stabs, going to hit us like a truck. Doesn't matter because this thing's still locked against Umbreon. We don't have Focus Blast to really threaten it or anything like that. We're just going to optimize the charge move timing and then swap to Clefable, see what they've got in the back. If we can, Switch Timer's just coming up. We're not going to catch a foul play. That's unfortunate, let Hypno go. We're going to put it all onto Clefable just in case it's a Machamp in the back. And it's a Ninetale, so we're just going to top left and just surrender there. Give it to the opponent. Let's not waste my time or their time. Let's just accept that for what it is. GG's. Okay, so we're going to take a look at the same kind of team, but this is now going to be with Shadow Hypno running Fire Punch and Thunder Punch as charge moves, and then Florges with Fairy Wind, Disarming Voice and Moonblast, and then keeping Clefable as well with Fairy Wind, Meteor Mash and Moonblast as well. So still Psychic Double Fairy, still pretty weak to Steel and all that, but there's no Charm, Fast Move pressure, but there's a little bit more Charge Move pressure. So let's see how it actually plays out in comparison. Also might help you guys decide if there's a version of this team that you prefer over the other for running yourself. So, Clefable lead. We don't really like dealing with Clefable, to be honest, because, as we said, fairies are pretty strong. We don't want to have to deal with Meteor Mash with any of our Pokemon in the back, and if we swap them in, we're going to be behind on energy. So, we're just going to have to stay with Hypno here and do what we can and just hope that they're pretty weak to Fairy in the back. So, we got them very, very low here. We choose to let the Meteor Mash go through, and we're probably going to farm down with one of our 2 fairies. Maybe Clefable, just because it's got slightly more versatility in its charge moves, and then just see what they've got in the back. We are going to have to shield up a Meteor Mash because this will hit us like an absolute truck. Completely fine. We've got quite a lot of energy, so as long as they don't fully wall fairies, we're going to be looking pretty solid here. I'm not sure what I just saw come in, but we're going to go for the Moonblast. Oh, it was Sandslash. Okay. Regular Sandslash is pretty spicy for this cup. We don't have to worry about the Night Slash, but we do have to worry about Earthquake. It is going to hit pretty hard. We're going to swap in Florges, we're not going to shield. We're going to take an Earthquake. Hits us like a truck. Okay, it's going to go straight for Moonblast. We're going to hit him hard, we're going to take him out if we can. They are going to let it go through, that's fine. What's in the back? Politoed. We're just going to survive to get to this Moonblast. This is key because this is going to hit them pretty hard or get a shield. They let it go through. They were depending on that being a Disarming Voice because they knew that Clefable would be able to make it to one of these moves as well. So, we don't shield up. We're going to gamble it's not an Earthquake, it's just a Weather Ball because this Politoed's got a lot of energy right now. They had the opportunity there to shield betas with a Weather Ball and then probably still make it to an Earthquake or maybe even a Blizzard, which could have taken us out. So we just had to just go for the fast move down and depend that the first charge move if there was a Weather Ball, which it was. GG's to the opponent. Also, it's worth noting that these battles were a few days after the previous battles with the other version of this team. I since then hit veteran rank. I wasn't recording when I did hit veteran rank, and then I dropped down 150 points or so, so we're down at about 2300. Currently I'm back up to 2400 as of recording this, just using different teams in this cup and in the Ultra League in general. So just so you're aware that this team is still holding its own pretty comfortably in the single type cup. Okay, Seeking Lead, a bag of many tricks with decent coverage across the meta in general, thanks to Poison Jab, Draw Run, Icy Wind. They're all legacy moves on it, but they're all very strong on it. So we got to stay with Hypno because this thing's running Poison Jab. We do not want to get the fairies near this thing. They're going to choose to swap out to Meganium. We're going to hit him straight with a Fire Punch, straight out the gate, hit him for decent damage because Meganium is pretty bulky and we don't want to be struggling to take it out. Bring in Florges. We're going to go straight for Disarming Voice because Florges hits pretty hard, Disarming Voice hits deceptively hard, and this means we can just take this move, absolutely no worries, and Fairy Wind down, and then we're going to be close to having charge moves to throw at the Seeking. They're probably not going to be able to Poison Jab us down before we get to a move. It's going to be close, and like we said, this is going to hit reasonably hard, so there's going to be pressure for them to possibly shield, depending on how much they want to protect Seeking. They are going to, that's fine. Bring in Hypno, and now we are looking a little low on health here at this point, so we are going to have to shield this up because we're kind of depending on getting another move off on this thing, and they're going to catch a Thunder Punch on Superior, which is a ballsy play, but it works out in their favor in this situation. And now we've got Clefable in here. We don't want to take a Frenzy Plant, which we are going to do. We were depending on them trying to bait us with a Leaf Tornado just to try and drop our attack straight out the gate, but they opted for the damage first, which is fair enough. We get the Moonblast through, which isn't going to be enough to take them out, and Hypno's too low to Confusion through everything at this point. This would be a great opportunity just to commit a shield into Hypno, let the fast move pressure take over, but we're not in that situation right now. If we'd have landed a Fire Punch and not a Thunder Punch on the Superior, we'd have took them out with that first Moonblast, and then we might have been able to put a bit more pressure on the Seeking as well, been a little bit closer, but that catch really secured the win for them in general. We're going to take a draw and get taken out. GG's. Okay, we've got a bit of a spicy matchup coming up here. It's not a full spicy team, but Octillery on the lead is a little spicy. It's got access to Lock-On. It's one of the few non-Regi Pokemon that can use Lock-On. Has access to Octazooka, has access to Gunk Shot. I think it can learn a couple of other quite hard-hitting nuke moves as well. They're going to get a Gunk Shot through, does monstrous damage, especially since we're a Shadow, and they're going to swap out into Lurantis. We get a shield with a Fire Punch, which we're happy either way. We're either happy to get the Fire Punch to do big damage, or get the shield. I'm going to bring in Clefable, because we can take a Leaf Blade pretty comfortably, and then just go for the Moonblast. We want the shield, or we want to wipe them out. We're going to show the Leaf Blade just because we don't want to get too low in this situation. We're happy to commit a shield here. They're going to choose to let it go through. So this thing comes back in. We're going to go straight for the Meteor Mash. We get there fast. Like Octillery gets its moves fast, so does Clefable. So we get a shield out of them with the Meteor Mash, and that's not necessarily a bad call by them. Just because it's not very effective, it had been resisted, it probably still would have taken them out. Octillery is a little squishy. They try and snipe us down with Coffegregious. They're not able to get there. We're going to get a Meteor Mash off on Coffegregious, and now we've got Florges with a shield advantage. So we're going to shield this up, right? It's going to hit pretty hard. Yep, that's completely fine. Now we're going to build up excess energy because we know we can. Get to the Moonblast, definitely knock out the Coffegregious. The Disarming Voice might have been enough, but I wasn't sure. Definitely take them out and then just get to this Disarming Voice, finish them off, and it's going to be a good game. Octillery is nice and spicy. I love seeing different Pokemon being used in these kind of cups where things tend to deviate down and down towards the same handful of Pokemon. So really nice spicy pick, shout out to that trainer, but it's not going to give him the win this time around. Okay, Gramble lead. This is a close one if I remember rightly. So, Shadow Gramble, Shadow Hypno. We're both absolutely chunking each other down in this situation. They're going to swap out into Umbreon. We get Clefable straight in here. Personally, if someone swaps an Umbreon in on this team, I recommend you bring in Florges or Aromatisse, that's what you're running. Whatever your more hard fairy is, because Clefable's got more versatility depending on whatever they might have in the back as well with that Meteor Mash coverage. But Clefable's going to be able to handle this matchup completely fine. We're going to end up throwing a Meteor Mash just because without extra Fairy Winds adding up in this situation, they will be able to threaten us with another charge move if we go for the farm down. So Gramble comes in to charm us down. We're not quite able to get a Meteor Mash off That's very, very unfortunate. Just costs us a little bit. I'm going to throw a Thunder Punch at the Gramble. They're going to have to shield up or they're going to get taken out. They're going to go for the shield. That's completely fine. We get to another Thunder Punch. They catch on Registeel. Okay, we got Registeel. Hypno's basically useless at this point. It's too low. We're going to go for a Fire Punch, actually. It's not too low. That's fine. Lock On is really going to take its time to get anywhere with us. They're going to shield up. That's unfortunate, but we got 2 shield advantage. What can Florges do with 2 shields in this situation? It's going to take a Zap Cannon. They don't get the debuff. Okay, there's hopes, there's dreams. We might be able to pull this out. It's going to be close because that Gramble's still got some energy as well that we have to be conscious of. We get the attack drop on the Registeel. We should let this go. Yeah, we got to let this go because there's a good chance Gramble can hit harder than Registeel can. We need to farm down. We need to survive these charms. They get the defense debuff and they're going to charm us down. We tie and knock each other out. And we needed that Moonblast on Florges to take out the Registeel. We couldn't have swapped in Hypno because it would have just died to 1 charm straight off anyway. So we just needed to get that Fairy Wind down. And it's just unfortunate. It was so close. We were so close to having a Meteor Mash off. And it was so close to getting that farm down to get a Moonblast on the Registeel. So very close game. Very well played to the opponent. GG's. Okay, I'm going to leave you with this game where we've got an Umbreon lead and the opponent inexplicably surrenders for, I'm not really sure why, in the middle of this game, but I'm not going to complain with it either way. And let me know what you guys think about this team down below. Do you think Double Fairies a good strategy for the single type cup? Do you think it's bad? Are you personally running like 3 steel types in this cup and you're just laughing at the idea of coming up against this team? Like, personally, I think it's viable. I think it's strong. A lot of people just aren't preparing to deal with 2 fairies. There's too many other things in the meta to worry about, like Coffegregious, Umbreon, Machamp, Primeape, Vigoroth. Like, there's too much things to prepare for to be having to worry about double fairies as well, and that means a lot of matchups you're going to have a distinct advantage. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to all that good stuff. Helps support the channel, helps me out massively. Thank you guys so much for watching this far, and as always, I will catch you absolute legends next time.